Hello viewers, and welcome back to Phil's Garage for part 3 of this GS750 petrol tank resto. You notice I got my beanie on this time. I noticed the outro of my last video I was having a bad hair day, so best to wear a beanie, I reckon. Anyway, what have we done? So we've done the inside of the tank, we've done the bottom of the tank. So it's time to get on to the top of the tank, strip it back to bare metal, do a bit of putty work, get it nice and flat, and then etch primer, undercoat, and get it ready for colour and start looking a bit like this. So let's start scraping. Right, we're down to the undercoat, so a bit more scraping, and we'll get it down to bare metal all over before we put some filler in. Right, well, there you have it. All the original paint off. It's good to see that there was no bog in the tank from somebody else. So yeah, fairly straight apart from those few dings. So the next step is to put some filler in there and then start sanding it flat so that we're ready to start putting some probably etch primer first on it, and then think about primer and color, etc. Right, well, I've done a bit of filling in the tank, as you can see. Sanded it back as good as I can. So I'm going to now spray a coat of etch primer over it, which should give me a good idea of, if there's any other little areas that need attention. So I'll just warm up the tank because it's a bit cool here, and then spray some etch primer on. So here it is after about 3 coats of etch primer with bits in between to fix up little imperfections, and then 3 coats of undercoat underneath and on top. So I think it's pretty straight. So we're sort of ready to start thinking about colors. So that's the next step. All right, viewers. So I've had a bit of an epiphany in the last 24 hours. So even though the inside of this tank looks very good, based on the surface rust on the outside of the tank, I'm still a little bit worried about what may happen down the track. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to put a liner inside this tank. I mean, for the sake of about $100 and a little bit of work, it just gives me a bit more peace of mind that nothing's going to happen down the track. The last thing I want to do is do all this work and then find, in a couple of months with the tank on the bike, there's some sort of problem with it. So I just figured today I'll just put a liner in it. It just makes it so much easier and just makes me feel a bit better about the future of this tank. So I've ordered another of the red, white and blue tank liner kits, which are made in Australia. That's the same one that I used on the GS1000G tank, and that's going well. So I probably won't video that part. If you want to see that process, you can go back and look at the GS1000G, one of those episodes that shows that. So yeah, I just think for the sake of all this work that's being done on this tank, it would just make me feel a lot better if there was a liner in there. So that's what I've done. So I will wait for that kit to arrive and do that before we proceed with anything else. Right, so we're now getting to the point where we need to think about the colours and the paint. This is the tailpiece off the original bike when I did it 6 or 7 years ago. So back in those days, I manually got this Stratos blue mixed up, basically from memory, really. Nobody seemed to recognise the paint code, so I had to go through a bunch of colour charts and find something that was close. Got that mixed, and then even that was a little bit light, so I added a little bit of darker blue in there and got to this colour. So that's pretty close to the original, I think. For the stripes, I actually bought some stripes online through eBay, and when they arrived, I think they were for the US model, which the US model had a thing called Maui blue, which was a lot darker blue. So the gold was fine, but the lighter blue stripe was actually quite dark, and it was virtually this color, so that was never going to work. So what I did back then is I mixed some lighter blue, which was this blue. I then, before I put the stripes on, I masked off the wider stripe and sprayed that. Then once that had dried, then stuck the stripes onto the tank and then put the clear over the top, and that worked really well. But I don't want to have to do that again. The stripes I bought were not cheap, and I can't find the correct stripes for this Stratos blue. There's only the ones for the US model online. So what I plan to do is use paint rather than pinstripes to do the striping on the tank. So I have this color. So I took this to the paint shop that I got this mixed from, and to see if they could match these two with their spectrum analyzer, but they said that was too small, so they need a larger area to analyze. So once again, I sat there and went through a bunch of color cards and got something that was pretty close to the gold, got something that I thought was pretty close to the blue, and the guy there agreed. So they mixed those for me, the gold stripe and the blue stripe. Now I should have checked it in the shop, but because when I got it home, the blue is actually quite dark. It's almost this color. So I don't know what went wrong. Maybe the color card we were looking at had faded, or maybe he mixed it wrong or whatever. Anyway, this is too dark. So once again, I'm mixing white into the blue to get it to this light sky blue, I guess. So I've mixed that up in here. I've ended up by slowly adding more white with 60 mils of this blue in there, and then 60 and 50 mils of this white base coat that I just happen to have. So I've got that onto this bit of metal here, and I think it's pretty close. So the gold looks okay, and I think the blue is pretty close to what we've got there. So that's what I'm going to use. So to put the stripes on, I've got some 4mm masking tape, which will go in between the two stripes. And then for the outside masking, I've got some 3M precision masking tape, which apparently is very good for this sort of thing. So you have to be a bit careful about putting masking tape on. You've certainly got to make sure that the base, the blue base, has gone off. So I plan on leaving that at least 24 hours before I start putting masking tape on. And depending on what sort of masking tape you use, it can leave a mark on there once you peel it off. So this stuff is supposed to be really good. So that's what I plan to do. So I think the colors are a pretty good match. So yeah, the next thing to do is once the tank liner kit has arrived and we go through that whole process, then the tank's pretty much ready to paint. So we'll just wait for a nice warm day, and we can at least start on the base color, then wait for that, and then start looking at the stripes. So anyway, it should look pretty good in the end, I think.
Several days later.
Right, so my red, white, and blue tank liner kit arrived this morning, so that's the next thing to do. As I said, I won't show this process because I've done it before on videos, so if you want to have a look and see how that works, you can go and have a look at the 1000G video where I do the whole process. So let's get started with that.
Much later.
Right, well that red, white and blue sealer kit has been put into the tank. You go through a few processes. First, a bit of rust treatment, and then another process to stop that rust treatment. Then clean it out and mix up the epoxy, and pour that in and roll it all around. So you try and get every surface of the inside of the tank, and then leave it overnight, which I did last night. So it's certainly gone off. It's still a little bit rubbery, but that's fine. You need to leave it for a week before you can put fuel in it, which is not a problem because I won't be putting fuel in it for some time. One thing to be aware of if you're doing this sort of thing is don't use the standard fuel cap like this one here. Basically, because these caps actually breathe. So if you see right in under there, there's a tiny little hole, and there's these two little holes either side there, and that lets air into the tank while you're using it, so that the tank can breathe. Because if it's sealed off, then there'll be a vacuum eventually, and your bike will stop or whatever. So there needs to be a breather in there. So if you use the standard cap, there's a chance that you could get the liner kit in through all that and sort of block it off. So what I used is I just made up this little block. So a block of timber with a screw through the middle, a bit of a cork gasket, and then I just threaded a bit of aluminium strap there, and then that hooks into here across those two little indents there, and twist it 90 degrees and tighten it up. So that seals it up nicely, and it's a good thing to use to seal up the tank, as well as the little plate that I put underneath where the petcock goes. So as you can see, I've put a bit of guide coat on the tank with a little spray can. So the next thing to do is to sand that back, check if there's any other little areas that need filling up or whatever, and then think about starting to paint. So I'll wait for a warm day for that, I think. Right, so since you last saw this tank, I rubbed it back with the guide coat on there. That revealed a few little low spots. So I went around with glazing putty and filled those up, sanded those back, and then did another couple of coats of undercoat over the top. I've sanded that back. I have wax and grease removed it, and also went over it with a tack cloth. It's hanging up here in the shed. I mean, it's not ideal spray painting booth conditions, but it's the best I've got. So yeah, we're pretty much ready to spray the base coat on this thing. So it's a reasonably warm day today, so let's spray it on and see what it looks like. Right, well, there's the results. Probably a couple of coats underneath there, just to colour that in. and then about 4 coats on top. So I think it turned out okay. I know there's at least one little bit of dust in the top there that I'll try and get out later. But yeah, went okay, and we'll let that dry for at least 24 hours before we start thinking about doing the stripes and putting masking tape on the surface. Right, so that base coat is now dried off enough to start taping up for the pinstripes. So we're going to do that today. Now, if you look at the original bike, the pinstripes go along the bottom there and then curve up to the top. Fairly straightforward. Now, the original bikes had another set of stripes that went along here and like that, but I think it looks better with just the stripes at the bottom, so that's what I'm going to do. So anyway, let's start taping up for these pinstripes. Okay, so that took a while, but that's the masking for this side at least. Took a bit of mucking around to get it all straight and the right angle, and this little curve down the bottom here was interesting. But yeah, that's all masked off. So on to the other side, and then we'll mask off the rest of the tank and then think about spraying some gold first. So I'll mask off the where the sky blue goes, spray the gold, then once that's dried, mask that off and then spray the light blue, and then we should be pretty close to putting some clear on. Right, so all that masking is complete. I've even masked off where the light blue will go. So the only thing exposed is where the gold stripe will go. So I'm just trying to warm up the shed at the moment because it's a bit cool here and raining. So yeah, I'll start doing some light coats on the gold and then later move on to the blue. Well, the gold stripe has been painted on, as you can see, and I have removed the tape over where the light blue needs to go. So the gold has been drying overnight, and I'll put some tape over that and then paint the light blue stripe, and then once that's dried a bit, we can start taking off all the masking tape and the masking. So see what it finally looks like. Right, so I've done 4 coats of the light blue, and that's been drying for a little while. I think generally the idea is to get your masking tape off reasonably quickly. Don't leave it too long. So I guess we can start unwrapping this. See if there's any overspray where it shouldn't be. Anyway, I'll continue to unwrap this and then show you the results once it's all off. Okay, so all of the masking tape is off now. No overspray. There's a tiny bit of overspray inside here, but that's not really an issue. But generally, I'm actually quite happy with the results. Should look great once the clear is sprayed over the top of it. So I'll probably let this dry overnight and maybe think about clear tomorrow. Cool.
The next day.
Right, so there is 2 coats of clear on the bottom of the tank. So I'm going to let that sit for half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, and then flip it over and stick it on there. I mean, I might end up with a couple of little divots from those little rubber stoppers, but I wasn't real happy with the tank hanging and spraying while it's hanging, with it flipping all over the place. So I want to do it sitting upright. So yeah, we'll wait for a while, then flip it over and do the top coat. Right, so the underneath is pretty well touch dry. So I'll flip that over onto those little rubber stoppers there. So taped up the fuel hole, put the screws in there for the fuel flap. I've also put these little M3 screws in where the Suzuki emblems go to stop the clear going in there. So I think we're ready to do probably 3 coats of clear. Right, well, that's 3 heavy coats of clear over the top, so it's very shiny. Unfortunately, there's a bit of a couple of little runs. There's one just here, a little bit down the bottom there, so obviously went a bit hard on this side. I mean, it needed to be buffed anyway because there's a couple of little bits of trash in there. So there is a method where you can get rid of the runs with using a razor blade and then sand it back and then buff it to a shine. So we'll let that dry for a few days before we do anything else. Okay, viewers, that's probably a good place to stop part 3 of this tank rebuild. There'll be one more for just finishing it off. So I've made some great progress, lined the inside of the tank, painted the outside. So it's looking quite good. Certainly a lot better than when it arrived here, that's for sure. So yeah, we've just got to wait for this to cure for at least 2 or 3 days, deal with those little runs and give it a good buff. And then there's just little things like putting the petcock on, probably swapping over the fuel cap and tap from the old tank, and then putting it on the bike and the Suzuki emblems, and then putting it on the bike and see how she looks. So thanks for watching Phil's Garage, and hope you like this video. If you do, give it a thumbs up. or even subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you in part 4 of this tank rebuild. Bye for now.